Marvels, and you're tuned in to Rolling Out.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Malik Brown here for Rolling Out, Meet the Author, and I have the pleasure to speak with Miss Lianne Dillsworth, the author of Theater of Marvels. Miss Lianne, how are you doing today?
I'm well, thanks.
Doing good, doing good. I'm glad to be able to speak with you today about this amazing novel that you have. So for the people that may not know what this is about, let the people know, give a backstory, a synopsis of what this book is about.
Sure, yeah. So Theatre of Marvels is set in the 19th century, so the Victorian period, and it talks about Zillah. She's the star of the show at a variety theatre, quite a sketchy variety theatre, and she's clawing her way up society, one performance at a time, and no one can know her deception because she's playing the role of an African warrior, but really she was born and raised in London, and none of the crowd can know of her deception. And another act at the variety theatre goes missing, and she goes on a search for answers, a quest to find this woman, going all over London. So she's running with people in high society, in Mayfair, but then she's also down by the docks and speaking to the criminal gangs there. And the question is, will she find this woman and be the maker of her own fate, or will she face ruin? So it's quite a lot going on. There's a love triangle as well, I should say that.
And what kind of inspired you to write a book so unique like this?
I did a master's in Victorian studies a few years back, and I got really into Victorian popular culture, and it's a time that a lot of people write about, but you never really get to see Black heroines in these sorts of stories. So that was really important to me. And I just, that period, it's a long time ago, but we're dealing with some of the same issues. It feels like at that time there was sort of big push with the Industrial Revolution, and we've had a massive tech push in our century, and it's just trying to find the parallels in that, really. So it's a time that's quite far ago, but it still feels familiar.
When picking a title like Theatre of Marvels, what kind of imagery are you trying to set or trying to give to the readers while they're engulfing in this book?
I think it's very much about the atmosphere of the theatre at the time, and it's a time of discovery, a time of great difference, and it's really about the idea that Zillah, who is my lead character, has this agency to recreate herself, and that's the sort of Marvels side of it. And that's also the name that people gave to people who were different at the time. Also, they're so-called freak shows at the time. That's how they were positioned. I think in the US it's the small theatre acts, that sort of thing, sideshow. And so I really wanted to find a title that packed in some of those things, but was also felt quite celebratory as well.
I like that. So, so, talking about some of your experiences, what kind of experiences could you kind of relate to, or if you had anything that you could relate to when you're writing this book?
I think there's something about that idea that when you go out every day, you sort of put on your face and there's some element of performance. And I think with my lead character, she is desperate to make a better life for herself, and it's all about the challenges that you would go through to do that, but also the compromises you're prepared to make for yourself and how you come to terms with that. So some of those things where you're not sure if, is it worth it? Should you be doing this? And so I think that's something that I related to, but also the idea that you have so many changes in the role of women at that time. And I just really wanted something that showed someone who was quite sort of brash and quite gutsy, and just being able to showcase the variety of types of people at that time, which we don't get to see much of at all.
Do you think that your main character kind of correlates to how you are as a person? Did you kind of try to get things from your experience and things from the main character, or was it just like a whole different person?
I would love to be as gutsy and as bold as her. She is the sort of character who finds herself in all sorts of scrapes, but she often comes out on top. And I think as well that she's in quite a precarious position, but she doesn't always understand or realise that maybe we as the reader do. And you're sort of reading through your fingers at times thinking, oh, is she going to get away with that? So she's definitely someone you can root for. Yeah, I think I would like to say have some of that spirit. But yeah, I think as well, when you're writing, you tend to have sort of little bits of pieces of people that you've seen or observed, and different like sort of mannerisms and things like that. But yeah, I think, yeah, so she's not exactly like me, I must say.
What was the kind of your favorite thing about writing this book?
I wrote it during the pandemic, actually, the majority of it. And I think that because of the different time period, and I had in my mind sort of the costumes that they would be wearing, and it just was a little bit of escapism, I think, to some extent, because you could go and at the end of the day disappear into this sort of world and escape what was happening in our world and all of that time. So I think that was something that I really valued and was quite comforting.
Who are some of the people that you may have looked up to when writing this book? Any people important to you that you got advice from writing this book? Who were kind of the people that you were surrounded yourself with during this time?
I spoke to writer Stacey Halls, who wrote The Familiars, and she was really encouraging to me, and she had said about really focusing on the character within historical fiction, because you really get involved in the research, you're enjoying the research, and the reader needs to sort of cherry pick the good bits from that. They don't need to know all the time you were sort of in the library, like labouring over all this background. So that felt like good advice. So I think she was one that I looked up to, but I also had read and loved An American Marriage, which is a very different book to mine, of course, because it's not historical, but there was something, I went to a talk that Terry Jones gave them, and she was saying about when you have Black characters in fiction, if you have sort of one character that then becomes sort of representative of everyone, and it's really important to avoid that. And I just thought she had so many sort of really interesting things to say that you could really sort of think about. So I think she was one of the people that I was thinking about as well.
Love that. So I want to let you know, I have a book right here. and it's really and it's amazing because the first thing that really came when I got it was like the colors and everything, like and this is London, this is London, right? So how is just this cover, the color of this cover, just able to give the imagery of what is in these words in this book? How is this able to just kind of give a drop of everything that's going on in the book?
Sure, I think there's something about the colours. They're like sort of jewel tones and they're really rich. But then I think as well, when you have the border around the side, that is also showing you that it's like a sort of a snapshot of framing. So it gives you that sense that, yes, you're seeing it at face value, but it's a framed image. And I hope that you might, if you were really studying it, you might be thinking about what's going on in the background or where your view is being directed to. And then I think the idea of the London skyline just helps to sort of situate it nicely. And then you've got this like sort of smoky feel where the colours, the sort of purpley and the green blend into each other, and over all that you have a silhouette which is representative of Zillah, my lead character herself. So I hope that it sort of gets in all those different aspects, but I think there's something about theatre where you do have that sort of all that glitters is not gold, so you have that show and that performance, but there's something that can be quite murky underneath sometimes. So that's I love the cover. I spend a lot of time sort of like, oh, the cover.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I love it. So right. I know this isn't your first book, right? You have more, not right, of course. And this your first book? First book?
This is my debut. Yeah, this is why I am so excited. Yeah.
This is so if somebody was to describe how you impact them when reading this book, how would you want them to describe how this would impact them as a reader?
Oh, I have seen some of the early reviews, so I'm going to cheat, I think, on that one and refer to some of those. But some of the ones that I have read have said that it feels quite fast-paced and they are really invested in Zillah and willing to go wherever she takes them. And I really wanted for her to be that sort of person that would carry you along. And one of the favourite reviews I've got is that someone had said that they'd read the book and then they'd gone to do some of their own research about one of the plot strands in there, which is about the Sierra Leone resettlement scheme, which was launched back then, and it was about building sort of a place in Sierra Leone where people could go. And I really liked that she had read the book. Obviously it's fiction, but she's then gone and thought about it some more and done some examinations. So things like that, that's amazing, because anything, I think with historical fiction particularly, the idea is that it makes you a little bit more curious and hopefully you find out something maybe you didn't know before. So those are the things I think, but hopefully it should feel like just like a quite a good story. There's like moments that are a bit tear-jerky, but I think that overall it's got sort of lots of different elements and should be quite a good pace.
Love that. So here at Meet the Author, we like to meet the author. So when thinking about your book, could you describe a setting or the type of tea that you would have when you're reading a book like this?
What would go well with it? I think there's a moment in the book where Zillah goes out with, she's having an affair with a viscount who's quite high up in society, and there's a moment when they are together and having lunch, and they have ordered a picnic from Fortnum and Mason's, which is a store that was around at that time and is in Piccadilly now, and they have I think prawns in aspic, and sort of these Victorian delicacies. There's another moment where she eats marzipan fruits, marchpane is how they called it at the time. So I think something that's got quite a period feel would be good.
Love that. I love that. Before we go, I want to know, if it was one author that you could get to write your biography, who would it be?
Oh gosh. Oh, what an amazing question. You stumped me there. I'm thinking maybe I'd need someone to sort of embellish it a bit more, because when you're a writer, you're used to writing about other people, not for them to write about you. Oh, who would I have? We've talked about her already, but I'm going to say Tayari Jones, just because I love the amount of emotion that she brings. And like I say, when I read An American Marriage, I remember like sort of there'd be like something that was quite, it wasn't a big scene, but it just really got you in the feels. So I think yeah, she'd like sort of wring out all the detail and the emotion in my story.
That is amazing. That is amazing. I hope she's able to write your biography. Miss Lianne, thank you for coming on and speaking with us. Let the people know before we go where they can find your book, where they can find you. If you have another book coming, let the people know what they need to know about you.
Yes, sure. So Theatre of Marvels is out on the 12th of April, so not too long, and it will be available in Barnes & Noble and all the bookstores. It's also on Amazon, and you can pre-order now if you want. And I'm on Lianne D Writes on Twitter. If you want to pop over and say hello, that would be good.
Make sure you guys go follow Miss Lianne. Make sure you guys go pre-order the book. She said April 12th. I already got mine, so I'm early. Thank you, Miss Lianne. Thank you so much for coming on and speaking about us with this amazing book about you, about everything, and continue to grow and continue to strive in this world.
Oh, thank you ever so much. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great to chat to you today.
Thank you so much.